Psychotechnologies live. Woo!
Alrighty. We are here to balance the 7 factors of awakening. Pretending like I know exactly what that means.
Yeah, it's just like mind stuff, right? Minds are pretty simple.
Yeah, I've done a lot of
got
mind stuff
one.
already.
They come in boxes that are smaller than a bread box. So how complicated could it be?
All right, so I reckon we probably got to start with what are the 7 factors of awakening, and then go through them one by one.
Yeah. So little thing on this. 7 factors of awakening are really important. So it's last week we started with the Eightfold Path, and so number 5 is right effort. And so that's what does right effort mean? So it means like putting in the right effort, but how do you do that, right? Like that's very vague. So there's all these things you want to balance so that you're not weird and doing random stuff.
Right. So to check, is this? I mean, we were sort of arguing about this earlier, whether it's is right effort for your entire life, or is it for right effort when you're meditating?
It's whenever you want to be enlightened. So if you want to be enlightened only when you're on the cushion, then only do that on the cushion.
Right.
If you want to be like a fully enlightened being for your whole life, then you're gonna have to do that.
Right.
But okay. I do think it makes sense to practice on the cushion or like practice in meditation, because if you start doing it in real life, like you can lose control of the situation really quick.
Yeah, I would say it can be very hard to learn in a complex environment if you're trying to isolate variables. Classic do science by isolating variables.
Yeah.
Much harder to do than when you're on the cushion and you can do one thing at a time.
Yeah. So for like the cushion, it's like it's just you in a room alone, quiet, or like maybe some nice background music wherever you meditate. So there's just less, like if something's happening, you know it's from you. It's not coming from elsewhere.
Right.
And it's like you practice flying under ideal conditions. You practice anything under ideal conditions.
Just thinking of there's a book, Peak by Anders Ericsson, which is about learning things in the universal sense of like learning, education, knowledge. I read a lot of these books like In a Game of Tennis over the course of a couple of years ago. And most of what that book insists is you need feedback when you're learning things. And it's not that you can't get feedback in a complex environment, it's that the feedback is probably going to be confusing. So if you're like, I'm trying to throw basketball hoops and you're doing it alone and working out like, oh, I threw a little to the left, I threw a little to the right, versus if you're doing it with a bunch of other players interrupting you and trying to block you as well, then you're going to have a problem where you're not sure if you threw a little to the left because of the other players, or if you threw a little to the left because you're a little bit off in your aim.
Yeah. And it's like hard to pay attention to your balance and to your focus when there's someone getting in your face and trying to mess you up.
All right. 7 factors.
Yeah. Some factors of lightning. So this one was a big one for me. Really helped me kind of.
The factors are, going to say them all in a line: mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, relaxation, concentration, and equanimity.
The way I'd like to tackle it, like the kind of way that I orient it towards it, because there's 7 things here and they're kind of all loud, and then how do you balance them? That's weird and confusing. So what Wikipedia has done, or someone else has, is they've divided into three categories. So you have essentially like on one hand the the joy, rapture, investigation, energy. So those are like very like positive, like
Upwards.
doing things. Yeah, upwards. Then you got, on the other side, you got relaxation, concentration, equanimity. So these are,
I would have thought concentration's kind of an up one as well. Like, yeah, although there is a way to concentrate with effortless concentration, that's different.
yeah, I think it because it's samadhi, right?
They mean more like the calm side of concentration.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then in the middle is mindfulness. So mindfulness is kind of like that balancing agent and like keeping it level. Yeah. Like to me, like I like to do an extreme version that doesn't map on correctly, but might get you in the right ballpark is like, it's like, if you think of like bipolar, where you just have like a lot of energy, like manic phases, and you're just like going through and doing stuff like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, and like all this energy, all this like excitement, euphoria, and then like you get that depression cycle where it's, just low, life is meaningless, life is suffering, there's no point, like, it's just like that real like low depression.
Look what I found. It's a little picture. They've actually done it differently. They've got some differently translated words. So in the middle, they've got awareness, not mindfulness. Then they've got investigation, energy, and joy on like, this is like a scales. And then calm, concentration, equanimity on the other side of the scales.
Yeah. So these words are all translations, right?
Yeah.
And more importantly, these words are all referring to like actual experiences and things in your life. So
I think of it as like slicing the elephant into pieces. And they're obviously, you can slice the legs and the head off, or you can like slice the toes off, or you can slice the skin off. Like there's many ways to slice the shape of reality that you're trying to slice. And so if you change mindfulness to awareness, then you can sort of reorganize. So concentration has some of that quality of mindfulness that is now not described in the word awareness.
Yeah.
As long as you know what you mean and you can transmit it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things happening here. One of them is like there's like what we were talking about before, where like these concepts are essentially like the F equals MA of experience. And so like these things to me, like these are very true and from direct experience. But like the wording that we're going to be doing, like just because they're true doesn't mean that you know what the hell we're talking about.
Right, the language.
Yeah.
Someone with different language or different experience may put different words to it, still trying to point to their experience and still be reasonably valid, but using different language and different words.
Yeah. And different words will capture different aspects, or different people will relate differently to different words.
That's an interesting one. So when I used to learn maths, so we're talking high school, I would often do the thing several times over and like get to one answer and then do it another way and get to, like, if I got to a different answer, I'd be like, oh no. But when I got to the same answer, then I'd be like, oh, I've worked out the same answer through two different paths. Therefore, like I have some verification on correctness. And so it feels like sometimes I have in my head a lot of different models of awakening, different grand philosophies of life. And so it feels like I travel down multiple paths to check that the shape of the elephant that I'm looking at is the same elephant.
Yeah.
And then I have some internal confidence that I'm looking at the right elephant based on my
because you can independent verifications. For sure. And I think for that, like to like build on what you're saying, is that you don't want to worry about like if we're right or wrong or whatever. You want to worry about what is real and what is actually going on. And if you pay attention to your experience, to reality, to what is, and you try to figure it out, and then you listen to what we're saying, that might help you figure it out. But at the end of the day, like these aren't scientifically defined. I mean, whatever, there might be science or something, but like at least the way I think we're talking about it, they're not well defined enough to be like, is this right, is this wrong? It's engage with reality and like investigate for yourself what it is.
Well, I mean, I can draw a little picture of this. This is kind of some fun stuff, but so I feel like I need to draw a little stick figure, be like, this is me, stick figure, and this is my like observation of reality here. And I'm gonna draw a nice little Daniel. Daniel, you get to be blue. You got a bigger head than me then. This is Daniel.
Because I have more brains in it.
So we got two options. Daniel can like sort of go like this and be like, I take my arrow over here, the one that I drew, and he can draw his own damn arrow over there. And actually, he gets to sort of 2 steps to the right of him, right? He ends up all the way over here when he follows this arrow, right? And another option is to take my arrow and kind of go like this and draw back to here. And that's like, this is confusing. Like, should Daniel try and look where I'm pointing? And then, you know, if there is really an elephant, I can't draw an elephant, but if there is really an elephant in this location, we're going to see it from different angles because we're standing in different places. But if I'm like, oh, hey, I look over this way and I see something elephant-like, Daniel can at least look in the elephant direction and see something elephant-like from his direction. And then what we end up doing is we end up having map to map rather than Daniel, I said it was an elephant, and Daniel's like, well, it kind of looks like a chicken or something. Like we actually get the, well, if that's what Elliot's calling an elephant, then he must have really, then I wonder what I'm calling an elephant.
Yeah, and we might have just different ideas of what elephants are, right?
Yeah.
But you know, it's not really about whether or not the thing is mindfulness or awareness or this or that. It's like, what is the actual experience, and then how does it work?
Well, how does it work in your experience, in each individual person's experience?
Yeah,
you know,
but I think
the person teaching is like, this is how it works in mine, and hopefully should at some point say, what about you?
Yeah,
your experience.
Yeah, so I think this stuff though is meant to be sort of like across all humans. So like this is how this thing works across all humans.
Right.
But the language is the same across all humans, and and the way we like exist within our own experience isn't the same as across all humans. So it's I would say like people have more luck. You'll have more luck figuring out what's going on if you try to figure out what's going on versus if you try to decide if the words are correct or not.
Right. Okay. So are we going to run through these qualities of?
Yeah. So first this is for me like to divide it up. It's like you're an airplane, right? Like got a right wing and a left wing, and then you got the pilot and in the middle, and the pilot in the middle is mindfulness. It's like the pilot's got to pay attention to, is the plane level? Is it going the right direction? Things like that. And then you got on, you know, like let's say the right side, you got like all these things that give you energy and move you forward. And then on the left side, you got all the things that like balance you out and keep you
grounded,
sane, grounded. Yeah.
Oh man, I've done a thing. The trouble with the word grounded is it's really quite useful and it means something, but it's kind of difficult to describe what it means because it's also a metaphor. Like, it's the metaphor of grounded.
Yeah, it's kind of, but it also feels, I don't know, maybe I'm just like too much in it, but it does feel like grounded feels like I feel heavier when I'm grounded. And I feel like a rock, like I'm not moving. It's like very much like that earth element or something, like where it's like, imagine Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender, where like Aang is like, oh, let's bounce around, let's do this, you know, let's do it. Like he's like very much that. The side, and Toph is like, no, you plant your feet and you don't move. And it's not exactly that, but it's like it's I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
That's interesting, because I would sort of point it more towards being in touch with the ground. And
Yeah.
without necessarily knowing or being too certain about what is the ground. Being really in touch with it is, anyway, grounded. Grounded is a tricky word. Maybe we'll cover that on another episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the other way to like sort of explain this is to look at when it's to be used. So let's say the first three are to be used when experiencing sloth and torpor. So that's part of the 5 hindrances, which I think we're gonna do next time or the time after or something. And these are like the counteractive of that. So when you're feeling like low energy, or you're feeling like you're falling asleep. Yeah. Usually like sloth is like when you're when you're meditating and you're starting to fall asleep.
Torpor is more like the wading through the mud feeling of like, ugh.
Yeah. Which is like kind of like that depression, I think, kind of stuff.
So which three for that?
Joy, rapture, PT, investigation, and energy.
Right.
So joy, rapture. So that's PD. So if you've done like vijnana meditation, so usually they get, except for Elliot's, I think doesn't do this, but a lot of like Robert Bea, a lot of the classic ones, they teach you to go to the jhana through PT. So you're kind of just like sitting there and feeling good. It's like, I guess how to describe it. They do like they get in through. They usually, I think they get in through like concentration. So they're trying to get in through samadhi. Samadhi feels good, and then you move into, you kind of focus on that feeling good, on that PT. And then that will lead you into first jhana. But yeah, so it's like a tingling. It's like when you tingle and you feel good, you're like, oh, this feels good.
An excitement, tingling with excitement.
Yeah. Well, so the excitement is like the energy, and then that tingling, feeling good is the PT. At least this is how I see it.
Is someone supposed to just know what the tingling is? Like, what if they're like, what do you mean by tingling? Do you have a way? What's the?
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen like any romance movie, like, or any romance like cartoon, like the characters are always doing that, where they're always like, oh, like, the first time.
Butterflies thing. Butterflies?
Yeah, butterflies is usually like stomach, and there's like nervousness, anxiety, I think, part of that. But it's just like that feeling good thing. It's just that part that's feeling good. And so you're essentially just feeling good, but it's not necessarily like meaningful or connected to other things. But it's I think it's just like it's just sit there and feel pleasure, like feel physical pleasure. Yeah, we should do one on jhanas and stuff. But yeah, so that's that to me, at least, that's how I understand PT. It's just feeling good, like physically.
Well, so the word is rapture or joy in these different translations. So
yeah,
joy is kind of tricky because you got the happy joy, and then you got the like.
Yeah, the joy doesn't map for me well.
Yeah,
but I assume for some people it does. Or else they wouldn't.
I think you got to point to like the simple joy, like there's complex joy, but you want to point to that like. I guess I'm going to steal from Marshall Rosenberg's NVC. He calls it the joy of feeding a hungry duck. The joy of a little kid feeding a hungry duck. That was his thing. But it's just fun to the duck is like, whack, 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 whack. And you just like give it another piece of bread and it gets excited and takes more bread.
Yeah, that's funny.
Very simple joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in that, and then the kid's not necessarily gonna like know that they're experiencing tingle, like they're not gonna have like this insight and investigativeness and be able to like fully like grasp out what's going on. They're just like, it just feels good and they do it, and they're like, they put it on other things, like, oh, the duck, or like feeding or whatever, like they create these stories on why it feels good, but it's just that feel good. And I love that example of the feeding a duck.
There's it seems like when we're kids, we don't have the complexity enough to have uh, like stress and strain. We have just pure simple feelings, or at least we remember having had just like pure simple joy. We're feeling the duck and it's fun and there's nothing else going on. And then when we become adults, we're feeding the duck, but there's like student loans in the back of our head, and
there's all this other stuff going on.
What am I doing later? And it's very hard to get back to that pure and simple experience. And so there becomes a meditative skill in dropping the complexity, even temporarily, to have the pure and simple feeling.
Yeah. And I think there is reason even behind that. Like you're like, you don't necessarily want, like you can easily be taken advantage of or miss things, right? If you're just in that simple joy. But that being said, I think that's why like meditation or like on your cushion or alone or whatever is so important, is because if you've created the safe space for yourself where you can sit and feel good. And like there's always, like that's the thing, is like when you sit, there's all these things that come up, and one of the things that you should be able to notice is like something feels good in your body. And if you kind of just concentrate on that or let that experience overflow you, where it completely like absorbs you, and you're just like focusing on and not forcing yourself, but just letting it feel good and just being with that feeling good. That's I think that gets you into PT, or that is PT.
Okay, so that's one. That's the joy feeling.
Yeah.
So we sort of talked about mindfulness as balancing these factors, and joy as sort of the first factor.
Yeah, the joy is the first of the upbeat, and then investigation. So when you're meditating, it's at the beginning, like if you're depending where you are in your journey, but you're always like investigating, like, is this happening? Right? Because you're always like sort of doubting yourself and doubting your experiences. And you're also seeing like what is going on, because sometimes things get confusing and you're like, is this true? What's happening here?
Do you have instructions? If someone's like, I don't know how to investigate, how do I investigate? What would you tell them?
Okay, so there's an easy answer, which I think I would like to just get out of the way. Drugs are like such an easy answer, because you take shrooms or acid or whatever, and you're experiencing shit. Like there's no doubt about that. Like there's no, like, you're seeing hallucinations, you're seeing whatever, the snakes wiggling or whatever. Like, so that's, and then you could look at that and see that. So that's like an easy way out, but it's not.
So there's some sort of looking at it.
Yeah, you're looking at it. You're like, what are you experiencing right now? Like, what is going on? Something shows up in your head. Like, really, like, you shouldn't be doing thoughts so much for meditation, because it's not really what meditation's about. But like sometimes thoughts come up, and not like you think you're like, oh, am I, like, I'm in pain? Like, are you in pain, or are you creating this like story about pain? And if you are in pain, what does the pain feel like, and where is the pain located, and does it come and pass? Like sometimes pain will come in waves, but you don't notice that it comes in waves, and so it feels like you're always in pain. And then when you actually investigate, like, what are the actual experiences that you're having? What is actually going on right now? Do you feel good? Do you, what are you feeling? It's been a while since I investigated. That's the truth, though, because I kind of just know, or I just take time and it shows up for me. So I sort of forgot about how to do this one.
So yeah. There's a like double checking sort of thing that you've described a little bit.
The double checking is a weird one, because you don't want to double check. You want to check once correctly. But sometimes, like especially at the beginning, like for me, it was doing like multiple checks, and that's I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. It's if you're checking multiple times, that means that your checking apparatus isn't doing the best.
Well, I'd say in my experience, I was checking multiple times and then I worked out I didn't need to. But I needed to sort of check multiple times to feel like it's like imagine OCD, like, did I lock my front door when I left?
Yeah.
Like you go back and check, right? And then you take 3 steps away and then you're like, did I lock my front? Go back and check. And then like take 3 steps away and did I lock my front door? At some point, after having done a few repetitions of checking, you're like, yeah, I locked my front door. Like I know I locked my front door. It got locked. Like, like did I take the key out and accidentally flick it unlock? No, I watched that one too, and I didn't do that. But it takes a couple of like checking before I'm like confident, before I have the confidence.
Yes. Yeah. So that happens. That definitely happens, and you want to like get better at. I'm not saying this is necessarily for OCD, like that's a whole thing. But for the investigation, like you want to get better at like doing it right the first time.
For sure. I think for me in meditation as well, there have been moments on my path where I didn't want to acknowledge what was going on. So maybe I was miserable or having a bad time and I was in denial. And so I'd be like, am I really miserable? Like, I'm going to keep doing the thing that I don't like and then check, does it still make me miserable? And I could do that a bit more and do that a bit more. And eventually I was like, oh, I'm making myself miserable. Then I didn't have to keep checking because I worked out like, oh yeah, I've made like maybe I could that also makes me miserable. Like maybe I'll only do it twice that still like Eventually I'm like, oh right, stop making myself miserable.
And you're not necessarily gonna be able to do it all at once. Like it's called a practice for a reason. The other one is like to check, like so there are checking mechanisms, I think. So if you're like happy and it like, so sometimes like especially people, they don't know if they're happy and really enjoying what's going on. And so you can check against that is if you're happy and you're enjoying what you're doing, you don't need patience. Like patience is only for things that are annoying or like unpleasant to do. So like the kid feeding the duck, you know, if he just sits there and feeds the duck the whole time, it gets really excited every time the duck eats. You know, you're not like, oh wow, you have such patience to feed that duck, because they're just in delight the whole time. And so like if you're in PD, you're just like there could be other things going on as well, because it's not people aren't usually get the pure experience the first time.
Right. So if you're feeding the duck but you need to pee, and you're like, oh, I have all this bread, I should finish this off before I go pee. Like like delightful. Also
so you're like, I like feeding the duck, but I have to do this before I go. Like then it's like, oh, and then the duck didn't eat it, and like this and that. Like so if it's like annoying, or if you're like wanting to go, or if there's things like pulling you away, then you're not. That's a mixed experience or something, right? Like you're not in pure bliss. If you're in pure bliss, you're just enjoying the bliss, or maybe you're meta aware of the bliss, but you're not looking elsewhere. Like there's nowhere else to be. Like this is where you want to be. So there's so like that investigation is like the investigation apparatus itself is also, you know, could also be exapted into being used negatively against you. So you got to be mindful of that. But yeah, like you want to actually like see.
What do you mean by used against you?
Well, because like if you investigate everything, then you're just investigating the whole time. Like you're not enjoying things. Right. You don't have the energy. You're not relaxing. You're not concentrating. Right? It's just investigation. This is like very like a straw man rationalist does this.
Sounds like a hypervigilance or something.
Yeah. Or there's like a paranoia as well.
Like, did I really hear that? Did I really see that?
Yeah. Are there FBI agents outside my door trying to like do these things, right? oh, I have to investigate.
Mm.
And then like you start the investigation, and then, well, maybe the CIA poisoned my water supply, and then you start doing that, and then like you're just kind of just moving around investigating things, but you're not really getting anything done, and nothing good happening.
Okay, so joy, investigation, and then should we switch sides to, so if you're balancing,
Well, let's finish this one.
you want to
and then
finish
just,
this?
like,
All right.
yeah, so then energy. So we did a whole episode on energy.
Well, we did what do we mean by energy?
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing. Like, it's like you feel energy. Like, energy is the thing that makes you want to move. Or anything, energy is the thing that moves you, I should say, not the thing that makes you want to move.
We did say there are many different types of energy.
Yeah, and you move in different ways, I think, as well.
With different types of energy, like food energy, like sugar energy versus excited energy versus good sleep energy. They will have you feeling different.
Yeah, so all that is like made of one thing. Like, they all have something in common.
Quality of energy connected to
That
them.
thing is energy, yeah. And then different qualities, different situations. And you can investigate the energy, and that's all that.
I think there's more for energy, but I'll come back after.
Yeah, well, we did a whole episode. And then relaxation. So then is the other side. So this is the thing that, like, I don't know, kind of makes like life worth living. It's like life. It's like being things. But this other side is what makes it sane. Like, keeps you. Like,
So I want to say up-regulating, like investigation, energy, joy, and down-regulating, like relaxation, concentration, equanimity.
Yeah. And so you want that balance, right? Which we'll get to afterwards. But just to first talk about what we're balancing. Yeah. So relaxation, I see relaxation as like a SNS, so like a sympathetic nervous system. So you get like activated, and like and then so like think of the opposite of that is to like sit on the beach with a pina colada. Like, you're
Right.
like, that's very relaxing, and you might feel a lot of joy and stuff, but it's like relaxing, like when all your muscles are done and you're not doing much.
There's a proposal that in-breath is sympathetic and out-breath is parasympathetic.
Yeah.
So the relaxing is the out-breath side of things. So every out-breath you take, you're doing a little bit of relaxing.
Yeah.
Right, and tranquility. So relaxation, tranquility sort of mushed together as this badly translated, or it's translated, it's sort of between the two or both.
Yeah. Then you have concentration, which is samadhi, which is like being able to stay on a thing for a long time and not bounce around. So it's, if you think about like sort of like like crazy example of ADHD, where the kid's just like, no. So it's the opposite of that. You're just like, this is what we're doing. And I'm, and then equanimity is like I'm good with this. Like, equanimity is kind of like everything is the same. No, not everything is the same, but everything is as valuable as each other or something. Like, it's like very like no judgment. Everything is equal.
Equanimity is a tricky one. I've had different fundamental.
Everything just is really what it is.
Right. But even so, I've had different fundamental conclusions about what equanimity is over time, as I've meditated more and like gone, oh, I wasn't, there's a way to say like everything is, where I'm kind of annoyed about it, and then there's a way to be like too tranquil about everything is, and then there's like even just the phrase everything is, there's just so many. You have to also, the person saying it needs to be more equanimous in order to get to the real central neutrality of equanimity.
Yeah, like I do think sometimes people do try to invoke like their equanimous, where they're like, but everything just is, and then like like I don't think like
Seem calm.
it may be object level like equanimity, like the thing you're looking at is equanimity, but you yourself are not that.
Right.
I think that's a lot of what happens.
So there's equanimities, let's say, sort of known by experience over time, that after a while you're getting the hang of like coming back to baseline and getting on with your life, and you're like, oh yeah, this is how it is.
Yeah, it's a very much like it's an acceptance of reality as it is. And that's kind of like the opposite of the energy. Like each one of these, I think, are kind of the opposite of each other in a way. Not that they're like counterbalance of each other. Like yeah, if you have a lot of energy, then like that's not equanimity. But that's not bad. Like that's not bad, right? Like I'm not like it's not the energy is better or worse than equanimity. It's you want a certain balance. Like you want to be able to see reality as it is, and you want to live in that and do things. And those are some balance, because if you have just energy without the equanimity, like that's pretty much like a manic episode where you're just like you're not seeing reality and you're not able to like you're not seeing reality as is, so you're living in like a delusion and I mean like a TV manic episode. Not all manic episodes are the same, honestly, but yeah, you're living in this reality where you just don't see what's going on. Like you don't see what is. Yeah. And then I think concentration, also investigation. So like concentration is like sort of accepting that like this is what's going on, and like staying with something. And investigation is not staying with something. So like if you think of like a detective, like a detective is like, what's this? What's going on here? What's happening here? Right? Like he's not like focused on a thing. He's just looking around at all these things, trying to figure out what's going on. Like there's all these tales, all these different paths that things could be. But again, like there is this balance, right? Where like he is staying on something, like he is trying to solve the case. And so like that's like he can still concentrate on the case while still, I know when I'm playing like video games, like I'm looking at every single, like if you're like an RPG or something, like you're looking at every single avenue because there's all these things there, but you want to keep that main quest in mind. And so the investigation is, what's this? What does this do? What is here? How does that work? But there's still this overarching, an overarching goal that you're working on. And so they're kind of like, I think, opposites, but also there is a synthesis of that. And then relaxation and joy as well. Like you could have, I'm so happy, and then that's not relaxed, but you could again like sitting on the beach, enjoying it, relaxing, enjoying yourself. And there's that nice synthesis. And yeah, and then each of these are used for the opposite. So the joy, investigation, energy is used for like when you're falling asleep, or sloth, the torpor, and then relaxation, concentration, equanimity is restlessness and worry. So if you have you think of like a classic like TV mother-in-law or something where they're always worried, clutching their pearls, things like that. It's like these are the things you want to teach her how to do so that you can calm.
So are you balancing these in everyday life?
Do I try to do that, or do I actually do that? That's what you're asking.
Well, like, is there some like process in your mind that it's double checking if you are balancing some factors all the time?
Yeah. I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but yeah, because like for me this is like I can't do stuff without this. I don't know how people live their lives without this stuff.
Like out of balance. Because I would say I don't particularly, I'm not checking the 7 factors daily, weekly, or monthly. Occasionally I'll find myself very out of whack, and I will feel inspired to troll through prior meditative documents until I find the thingy-majig thing that points me in the right direction. I'll be, oh, that's what I was doing wrong. And then like I'll like feel much better. because I found the damn thing that I was
Yeah.
looking for. But I don't
Yes.
on a regular basis at all check on these things. I think maybe like one or two of them, like equanimity seems to become not just a state, but a stage, like a permanent foundation. And then I think I have a sense of energy. Eventually you turn the energy up and you leave it up and you're like, this is fine.
Oh, the energy states, I feel like I'm constantly shifting, and it feels like shifting gears almost.
So I would say for joy and tranquility, I can notice if I'm like, I want to feel more joyous or I want to feel more tranquil. And so moment by moment, I can shift those based on how I want to feel. Like it's just if I'm like, I'm a bit too agitated and would like to be more tranquil. I can't always move like instantly. It might take me, I would like to be more tranquil. I'm going to go meditate for an hour, get some tranquility back, and then I'll feel better. But I'm not constantly vigilant doing like, am I tranquil enough? And I notice when it's out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I know for me, like there was, I don't know how much I want to feel, but like there was like some personal stuff, like with my relationships, and I realized I kept sacrificing joy in the relationship. For like for like noble reasons, but it doesn't work. Like it's not, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like
I would say something like you can, but eventually you work out you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean you can, like you physically can do that, but it's a bad idea. That's what I mean. Because like then the relationship is just shit, and then you don't want to be there. That's the thing about joy. Like if you're enjoying what you do, then you want to be there. And so like to put in like, you can put in 3, 4, 10 times as much effort into a thing if you enjoy it, because it's not, it's like, yeah, like it's not effort. Like it's just, it's like the kid feeding the duck. Like if you like feeding ducks, then that's not work, that's pleasure. And the more you do that in life, like the more you're enjoying what you're doing, the less work you do, but like the more shit gets done.
So
you don't get a martyr thing. That's the only thing. You're not gonna be like, oh, I sacrificed this so much. Like you don't get that. You have to actually take responsibility for what's going on.
I'd say that concentration is another one that I sort of my check for concentration is I look at my fingerprint. And the cool thing about concentration is if you have it, you get this vivid picture of like the grooves in your fingerprint. And if you don't, you get distracted before you even get to check. Like you can go like deeper and deeper into the grooves and the visual field of what it is to look at your fingerprint. But without concentration, you can't do that.
Wow. That's really cool.
Right.
I didn't know that one.
Well, it's just like, you pick up these like little hacks of like shortcuts to double check things. So.
Yeah.
And
That's cool. Cause yeah, I am looking at my finger and then like I'm just noticing new things that I don't really like looking at my body. I get like self-conscious about it. But yeah. But that's part of the thing, right? Because it gets like it's hard for me to concentrate on it.
Right.
Because it's I don't know, like shame or something. I don't know. It's like one of those blocks.
I want to be like, this is something you should investigate.
Yeah, these are the reminders that I'm not enlightened. Okay. which like I actually kind of enjoy that, because I don't know, there was like a time like during my thing where I was like not for very long, but like when you're doing the meditation and stuff, there's always like a time where you think you're enlightened. Like I think this happens to everyone. And so there was a time where I was like, I'm enlightened, but I'm not going to tell anyone because I know they're not going to believe me. And then, yeah. And then as I'm living my life, I'm like, time is going through and I'm trying to do things that exist longer over time, and I'm realizing actually there's all this stuff going on, and it was just like a part of my mind was, I don't know, something. I don't know, but it's cool. Like for me, like a lot of this stuff shows up, and it's like, oh, I don't have that responsibility. I'm not an enlightened being, so you don't need to do anything. Don't worry about it, guys. You could just treat me normal.
You don't have to worship me because I'm
Yeah,
not
you don't
yet
have to.
enlightened. But if I was, you'd be up.
If I was, then you wouldn't have to worship me, but I would know that. But
Right.
since I'm not enlightened, I'm still in that like thing that, oh, you have to worship enlightened beings. So like kind of like balances itself out, cancels itself out.
The duck, though. The duck is enlightened. That's why we have to feed the ducks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all enlightened. We just don't realize it, but yeah, or whatever. I hate these fucking mantras that you have to always like say, or else people are like, oh, you got it wrong. Like you didn't say the right words. It's not about the word, it's about what's underlying. And yeah, so I think the mindfulness is like you're always wanting balance, and then balance doesn't mean like even, right? Like, it doesn't mean the same. It doesn't mean flat all the time. It means
well, there's got to be moments where it's more interesting to investigate, and moments where you probably feel like relaxing.
Yeah.
So,
and those are things, and they run the course.
Becomes a skill to keep yourself in the place where you want to be. So the worst thing would be to like be on the beach with your pina colada and want to do something more interesting, more exciting.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm on the beach. I've been here for 5 minutes and I'm already bored, and like I just can't seem to relax, and because I'm too bored. Right?
When you're on the beach, you want to be at work. When you're at work, you want to be on the beach.
The worst. Thanks, brain.
Yeah.
But if you can be on the beach when you're on the beach, and then be at work when you're at work, that's an ideal.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you should investigate why and what's going on. Yeah.
And all these things should be, I think, present all the time, unless you're doing unless you're doing specific meditations where you're like, okay, what I'm going to do is fully experience one of these things. But if you're actually like trying to get stuff done or doing things in life, you need to have all these things there, and they need to be balanced in good ways, right? Like, because each of these things, if you don't have it, you're going to get hit. You're gonna suffer in ways that you don't. It's not right action. Like this is what it is, right? Like this is all from right action. Like you're not going to be able to right effort. You're not going to be able to do the thing properly. Like you need to have some level of all this stuff there. And then the mindfulness is like, yeah, like you're aware of it, you're paying attention to it. And that itself can go up and down, because sometimes you're not, like sometimes you want like the joy or rapture, or whatever, or the things that are going on to take you, like to lead you. But you always need some level of mindfulness, I think. I don't know if that's true, actually. That might just be a way of protecting myself.
It might be something you need to investigate again.
This is what I do. It's like there's always mindfulness at some level, but then it's like don't let that take over, or let it take over if that's where you're at. But it's not permanent. Like you're not permanently living your life in full mindfulness. You're living your life, and you're mindful. Which sounds the same, but very different.
I want to focus on energy a little bit more.
Sure.
So there's a trap of the meditative path, which is you go to sit and you meditate, and you're trying to pay attention, and you get distracted, right? And so classically, one thing you can do is you can reduce your energy. Nice strategy. If you turn down your energy, then there's less distraction. And so you're meditating, but then you start getting dull. And there's an uncanny valley of like, oh, I'm going to turn up the energy a bit, and then you get distracted and turn back down again. What you end up with is, instead of like a positively energizing meditation, you end up in this like dull place, because you're trying to stop distraction. And there's a benefit to having stopped distraction. And then I've seen it in the TMI path, and I've seen it in a couple other people, that they get the skill of being able to stay there for long enough that they no longer have distraction, and then they don't turn the energy up after, and so their meditation remains underpowered. And so they sit and they meditate, but they're not having an awesome time, they're just having a non-distracted time. And then once you have pacified meditation language, pacified your distraction, then you can turn the energy up, and you can have heaps of energy and not be distracted. And that is super cool. But a lot of TMI doesn't tell you to turn the energy up, and a bunch of other paths don't tell you, like, oh, now that you've pacified your distraction, turn the energy back up. And so people get really stuck on the path and get bottlenecked by not having enough energy, and not feeling like you can just turn the energy up and you're not going to go like if you imagine being a little kid and eating a bunch of sugar, what's going to happen? You run around in circles, like burning up all that energy, right? And then you do something like you jump off something and you hurt yourself, and you're like, wow, all this energy was bad. And so you learn not to turn the energy up, or not to have that much energy, because you injure yourself. And then, but you get to adulthood and you're still not turning the energy up. You're like, why don't I love life? Why is life not fun? Because I just don't have the energy that I want, because it feels not safe. Turns out though, as an adult, you can turn the energy up and choose not to do stupid things. And there's a opportunity here to tell people to turn the energy up, and don't do stupid things, but turn the energy up. And like, the energy is great to have, you might as well have it. Just don't do stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen more than one person, including myself, going well on all of the factors and just not having enough energy. And so you can be equanimous, you can concentrate, you can relax, enjoy, investigate mindfulness, but without enough energy, it's like you're holding yourself back. There's some way in which you're not getting every piece of the pie, which means you're not getting all of you enlightened. You're only like almost there. Yeah. You're as enlightened as you're allowing your energy to be.
Yeah. Like everything works well, but it just doesn't go anywhere. That's kind of juice.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple instances of this, like the no juice one. There's the like, everything's good but not great. There's like why is everything dull? I'm good at meditating, but I'm not getting the most out. Like, I'm not joyous yet, because there's not enough energy to go into joy. It's like good, but it's not like wow.
You're not doing it.
Anyway,
it's interesting. I never I think like I don't know, for me, like it's like the ADD and stuff. So like turning that energy down, but also like the depression stuff. So the energy, like getting that energy, like for me, it's I want that energy like balance. I think some people are gonna, they're gonna have different lives, and they're gonna like what that means for them might be, they might want more spikes, more ups and downs. For me, like I know I have a friend is bipolar, and then when we're talking, like when we're doing stuff, we're trying to, like, he's got this upper limit of how energetic he's willing to go, because
because it's not safe if you go, like, bipolar has psychosis at the top, right?
Yeah,
it's not safe up there until someone's learned to stabilize energy.
Yeah, and for me, I got ADHD, and depression, so it's like kind of like bipolar, but it's not. And so there's like I'm fine to do the peak experience, and I'm gonna go be weird and do stuff, but I know I'll just go to sleep, and the next day I'll be back to my baseline.
I realized you're describing another trap of energy, right? If I'm depressed and I turn up the energy, then I'm just going to be depressed really loud. That's no fun at all. That's like depressed, but it's like so depressed. Right. So you're gonna try and keep the energy not too high, otherwise the depression is gonna get louder too. Unfortunately, what I am saying is to turn the energy up, process the depression, and get out of it, which is not necessarily.
Like you want to even them out at the same. Like you want to kind of like get that evenness for the up.
Well,
like
I would
if you
say
go just pure energy, you're gonna that's not gonna go well.
Not everyone is at a place where they can do that and be fine. And so it'd be like trust your own system when you're like, oh, maybe I should listen to Random Elliott and what he says and turn up my energy. Like, no. Trust your system.
Yeah.
Like
I want to push
if you want.
Yeah. The like turning down your energy and then getting rid of distractions. Like this feels very it's very like I'm not saying it doesn't work and it's not a good strategy necessarily, but it's like why like balance it and then things will be balanced. If you're having the distractions, I think it's the counter. That's one of the 5 hindrances, right? Depends on the distraction, but it's restlessness, or worry, or doubt.
Restlessness,
yeah. So that's serenity is the counter. So we're really this is a different one.
It's a different set. So some of the meditative paths are like pacify distraction, right? So take the monkey mind and you want to integrate it in with the rest of your mind, so that you are not living with a monkey mind that never goes, that never, like, our minds have this bit to them that it's been coined the monkey mind, right? The mind that likes to get distracted and be like, wouldn't it be cool if I also did that? And wouldn't it be cool if I also did that, right? Now, that part of the mind is a good thing, right? It's
that's investigation, but it's like investigation is gone.
It's like flightiness with distraction and restlessness, right? So that part of the mind, if you so one option is you learn to live with a distracted mind just forever. You learn to live with the mind that like occasionally just I'm over there now. You've designed a lifestyle that has more acceptance for your creativity.
This isn't the path.
Right. Well,
this is coping. These are coping strategies.
Right. And another option,
which I don't mean in a derogatory
way. Right. You can call them a crutch, and then like some people with a broken leg need crutches. Like
if you're designing your life around your distractibility, then that's a different way to live. Like that's not the path, right? Like it's not the thing we're doing.
Well, the other option is to, TMI calls it pacify the mind, which is to bring that distraction and stabilize it, like make the mind not a distractible mind. And there's a couple of paths that sort of go down this road of what you want to do is properly integrate distractibility.
No, I think this is all distractions. Like if you're getting the distractions, like this is similar to like restlessness and worry, right? So you want to be relaxing, concentrated, and equanimity. Like that's how you counteract that.
To counteract distraction, relax.
Yeah.
So if you're distracted, try relaxing.
Try relaxing. Try concentrating, and try being equanimous. So try accepting things as they are. And that's how you deal with it.
It's tricky. I can see these two models of
the other one's too complicated, because then you do this and then you do that and then you do the other thing. You're creating future distractions with that scenario. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. Like I'm not disregarding it. I'm just saying this.
So one of these is the path. Like first you pacify the mind, and then you increase the energy, and then you have both a pacified mind and increased energy. And another is wherever you are, you're already enlightened. there are 7 factors of awakening. You can just balance them as you are. And so they're like different schools, and each of them has a point. Like, I think there is still a path, and also there is momentary balance of the 7 factors. There you go. We've stumped him. We're not sure now.
I'm still not. I'm not sure. I really. Yeah, I'm not sure I got that. Can you say it again in a different way?
I can try. Let's see what I got. So, we're talking about instructions for meditation. Or instructions for meditation, which then becomes like a life philosophy, right?
Well, this isn't really like meditation. This is like enlightenment, right? Like this is right effort. So this is like when you're in life and you're doing things, like how should you do them? And like what should your internal experience be like? And so like this is what your internal, it should be this balance. Like whatever balance means, but it should be these things balanced nicely. And then people are like, well, I can't do that. And then it's like, okay, well, sit and practice. And that's meditation. I mean, really, like that's not all necessarily, like I think there are other forms of meditation, but this is a form of meditation. It's just sit and practice balancing these things. And maybe that means for some people, like maybe that means sitting with each one at each time, like sitting with one at a time and just sort of focusing on it and getting good at it. And then you're not balanced, but you're I don't know, you're exercising it, or you're strengthening it, or you're becoming mindful of it. And then you're
so I was just about to ask, how should someone integrate the 7 factors of awakening into their life? So you just mentioned one way is to take one at a time, practice it, like spend an hour on each.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? And then obviously there's another one of like jump in the deep end and try and do all 7 at once, or some other version of like see which one you're missing, you're the worst at right now, and try and fix that one up and just do a lot of that.
Yeah, or whichever one is best at, or whatever. Yeah. Like I think there's a bunch of different ways to tackle.
Oh, there's another option, which is that sometimes people are just bad at one of them, or maybe 2 of them. Like your blind spot is over here. Like, okay, you're going to have to fix up that bit of your mental system more than the rest. Some of them are working and some of them aren't.
Yeah, like if one of them is off, then the whole thing is off. But then you got 6 other things helping you, so it should be easier than if they're all off. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I imagine it would be very hard to have all of them off.
Yeah.
Wait, let me just check. What would it be like? I guess if you didn't have mindfulness, then you might not be investigating. Your energy could be anywhere. You might not have access to joy or relaxation. You can't concentrate because your energy is everywhere. And equanimity I guess you could just not have any of them.
That sounds like hell, to be honest.
Kinda. It sounds like a bad place.
Yeah.
And we live in a world where sometimes people are in a bad place. And they need extra compassion when they are,
Yeah. And it's not, you don't lose your status as a human being or someone's value, like a worthwhile, just because you're out of balance. That's true, whether your mind agrees with that or not.
I mean, I've talked to people, so I've worked with people that they were just, I'd say, physiologically dysregulated. So I talked to someone once who had said they had just a couple hours earlier bumped into someone who was connected to or reminded them of some pretty bad stuff they went through, and they were just like, they were shaking, they were a wreck, they were like freaking out. And I think most of what we did was just staying together and breathing and like letting that like go up and down and letting the system sort of sort itself out.
That's huge. That's so much of it. It's just like just calm and breathe. Like that is so much like that's retraining your automatic responses and your autonomic system. Like that's why like all meditation is on breath. It's just like just sit there and calmly breathe. Like that's like 90% of meditation. And then like the other 10% is like don't do stupid shit. Don't make yourself not feel good. If things are like, if you're interested in things, then figure it out. You know, like just relax, and then like concentrate. Like concentrate. This is what's important. Like stick with it. You know, and then energy. Yeah, like honestly, like it's weird because it's so simple and it's so complex and so hard, and like it's like everything just mixed into one.
I think I'm gonna have to take you through some energy experiments. Like try the thing that I would like to do, and maybe next podcast. It's like turn up the energy, and just see what happens.
We could do
see what needs to. Well, people have a bad habit of thinking that's a bad idea, or thinking that's like unsafe, or like being worried about what might come up, and chance that energy is just energy. Energy alone is just energy, but obviously your system can have some junk in it that as soon as you turn up the energy, like you can have
like
bad.
You could hit another plateau, right? Like it's like we were talking about, like with like the like probably for like this kind of stuff, like bipolar or whatever, like schizoaffective, like all these conditions where like everything's like normal baseline, and then you hit an energy spike, and then that moves you into this other realm, and now you're Jesus healing people or whatever. Right. Jesus is going to be a lumberjack. Whatever.
I would say there's also a skill there. Maybe it comes from mindfulness. I'm like trying to pick which factor. Kind of from mindfulness, the like self-awareness, or a bit of mindfulness, bit of equanimity. When your energy is up, you can know that the energy is up. You can just be like, oh, I'm up.
Yeah.
And you can mindfully and equanimously accept it, let it be up, and not let it like drag you to like to the excitement, to the, you know what I need to do today? I need to spend all my money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like you have a lot of energy and get all the shit done that you want to get done, right? Like
right. But you can also you can stay in the like, oh, there's a lot of energy here, without letting the energy like convince you to do silly things like spend all your money. And I mean, classically it's like drugs, sex, and money. That's where bipolar mania goes. And so there's a skill there in self-awareness, staying equanimous, staying mindfulness to the state of like high energy, and letting it be nice, because it feels good. Like this is the struggle of mania. People often report it's really nice to be manic. It's just exciting. It's fun. It's interesting. It's
I know. I've hung out with people in manic episodes, and it's fun. Right. I didn't usually figure it out till the next day, but
and then so to like mindfully balance it, it's tricky, right? Because we don't want to kill it, right? And like I said, we can just squash the energy.
Yeah, and you don't want to. Like, and you don't want to just be like energy's bad, because then you're just in depression.
That's right.
Like energy.
Classic one of like,
powerful.
What'll I do if I have too much energy? I have to keep myself depressed.
Yeah.
It's a reasonable strategy,
because you're just holding it down, and then it all bursts out at once.
It's a reasonable strategy. It's just that life is depression, you know.
Then okay, now you live life of depression, and everything slowly disintegrates because you can't because life is entropy, right? So if you're not in your life like keeping it together, then it's going to fall apart.
Yes. Well, it feels like we're sort of, in some senses, we're on a railroad, like we're on a path, and you can lean up, you can lean down, you can like lean out of the railroad cart, and like you can ride on the depressed side of the journey that you're on, or you can ride on the manic side of the journey that you're on.
Yeah.
There is, and doing those things will sometimes shift the journey a bit.
Yeah.
But we are a human organism with a journey. Like, if you run out of money, you will have to you struggle with fitting into society and eating food, and that may cut your journey short. If you are successful in life, you'll end up with lots of extra resource, and you'll get to have a more relaxed journey, right? And we can sort of shift where amongst the possible options that are available to us, whether we're on the best possible outcomes or the worst possible outcomes within what's available to us.
Yeah.
I would say that if you balance the 7 factors of awakening, you're going to get erring on the better side of possibilities rather than the worse side. But if you have no concentration, you have no equanimity, you have no joy, you're gonna struggle.
You have no investigation. Like, there's no.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know investigation, you don't know anything.
Well, imagine you don't have half these factors or many of these factors, and you go to your friend and they're in some sort of drama about their partner, and you're like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. You get outraged because you don't have equanimity, and then you're mad, and then you're walking down the street and you people bump into you because you're not paying attention because you're so annoyed about what you're annoyed. And then you're even more annoyed, and then everyone around you, like in your suburb, starts has this extra little bit of annoyance, and they bump into each other a bit more, and you're your world sort of goes downhill because you keep adding these little negative experiences to the world.
Yeah.
And you go to eat food, but you are distracted, and so you're eating too much food because you're not mindful of how much energy you're needing. And the food doesn't taste good anyway, and that makes you grumpy as well. And
there's no joy. And then imagine living like this for days or weeks or months or years. There's no joy in your life. Everything is chaos. Nothing makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's hell.
That's how I imagine some people are living.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely experienced some of this. This is for me to try to get into that mindset already. I got these mental blocks. No, don't go there. That's not the way you want to live life.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned mental blocks. So I have the experience. I sit with people and I talk about what's up for them and their stuff, and I can start to see the mental blocks. Oh, you can't go into that emotion. You can't go into what is possible. The more excited you don't seem to be able to. What if you got a bit depressed? You can't even go down. That's scary to go down. Suddenly you're trapped in. I'm talking to someone who doesn't have enough freedom because they've got all these blocks. Depression was bad, being too excited was bad. It's and then hopefully I can.
Box closes, and then there's certain places. I think for most people it's or for a lot of people, there's places they'll go to and places they won't go to, and then they wind up being constricted, and so maybe their life works because they got enough of it, or the environment is in such a way that these are the only things they actually control over. But I don't know, it feels sometimes talking to people I feel like I'm in this box when I talk to them, because it's I can't, I want to stretch out and touch all this stuff, and then every time I do that, it's and then boom, back to the thing. It's constant back, and then that's the vibes that they're heavily pushing.
I have this phenomena when I'm talking with someone. I think I first did it with fear, anger, and sadness. That I sort of sat on my own and I expanded into what it's like to be in lots of fear, what's it like to be in lots of anger, and what's it like to be in lots of sadness. And so I'm got this spacious sense of I can go anywhere on the map emotionally.
Yeah.
And then I will talk to someone and I will notice where I feel like going. Oh, I don't feel like being angry here. I don't feel like being fearful here. And I will start to get a read on where those person's blocks are without them saying anything, just because I will be able to tell where I can't go in this conversation.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then with that, I know what I need to work with potentially.
Yeah.
Um,
And to me, that's cool, because it's like you only get that once you've cleared up enough of your stuff. Otherwise, like when you're back, otherwise the signals you're picking up are just your own signals.
That's right. Or I would say also with sensitivity, if you are in your own head too much, like in your cognition too much, you're not sensitive enough to notice your own emotional states, let alone emotional freedoms. And so, right, you need to pacify, stabilize, and get to a place where your mind is sensitive enough to notice these details.
Yeah. Psychotechnologies live. Woo!